Thank you for joining. This is the Unconventional Ministry Podcast. I'm Dennis Wiens, your host, Senior Impact Catalyst at SAT7 USA. On today's episode, we are visiting about 7 innovative ministry resources. Stay tuned. Each week, I invite a guest to join the podcast to share their unconventional, innovative, and creative ministry approaches. Today, I'm sharing 7 recent episodes you may have missed that are innovative local ministry resources that may be beneficial to your nonprofit or to your church. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast as well as check out other episodes from a wide variety of guests and a variety of innovative ministry approaches. Please leave a comment because how that episode touched you, I'm sure it'll be meaningful to your friends as well. So make a comment and share the podcast episode with your networks and your friends. I want to thank my sponsor, SAT7 USA. For those that are joining that are new, SAT7 is a Middle East broadcast media ministry based in the Middle East with a vision to see a growing church across the Middle East and North Africa. So we're 4 satellite TV channels, there's web streaming, there's digital, there's social media. So I invite you to visit the website, SAT7USA.org, sat7usa.org. And then on the website, across the menu, one of the first tabs that you can click on is ways that you can be involved. And I host a monthly Beyond Borders prayer Zoom. So I invite you to join that, and that's under the tab Join the Prayer Team, and you'll see a description of Beyond Borders Prayer where I link each month to one of our staff in the Middle East or North Africa and let them share about the ministry, what are their challenges, how can we pray for them. So I invite you to join that each month, and you can get the dates and the link for registering on that tab, ways to be involved. Another way you could be involved is to share what SAT7 is doing with others. Get on some of our social media, share the stories. You could introduce SAT7 to your church. We would welcome the opportunity to come and to speak about the Middle East and the ministry that's taking place. So invite us to come speak at your church or gather a group of friends together, and we'd be glad to come and speak to them. You could also host an informational meeting. We do a lot of that as well. You could prayerfully consider a cost-effective financial gift. You take the global budget of SAT7 divided by the documented viewership on the satellite, $1 per documented viewer per year. So I don't know if there's any more cost-effective way you can make a difference, be a lifeline for so many isolated believers across the Middle East and North Africa. So please consider prayerfully a financial gift to the ministry. In this episode of the Unconventional Ministry Podcast, we're looking at 7 podcast episodes that present innovative and creative solutions to challenges many local churches deal with. So this episode, you will want to be sure to share with your church, with your friends, and we're going to look at 7 innovative ministry models that maybe will give you a new innovative idea, creative idea for a challenge that your church or your nonprofit is facing. I'll put the number of the podcast episode in the podcast description so you can easily find that particular podcast episode that was of interest to you. And then again, be sure you share it with your friends. While not every episode may apply to you or your church, I trust it will give you maybe a creative idea or maybe an innovative idea for a solution or something that your church is struggling with, and this might be the solution. So here we go. Here are my 7 innovative ministry resources. Number 1 on my list, and I don't have this list in any particular order, is the episode number 102. The title is Missions Innovation in the Context of Urbanization, Globalization, and Multi-Directional Migration. And my guest that episode was Dr. Jared Looney. And as you think about migration, you think about urbanization, you think about globalization, more than half of the global population has migrated to cities or are living near cities. Great Commission ministry efforts are focused more on a smaller context, a rural context, and many of the methodologies, the strategies from mobilization agencies and mission agencies were developed over decades, and many of them aren't for the context of our world now, which is urbanization. And you take cities of multi-millions, take high-rise apartments, and just a different environment. And so how do we adjust? Well, Dr. Jared Looney has a creative new ministry model to come alongside your local church with a new missions model. So I encourage you to look at episode 102, Missions Innovation in the Context of Urbanization, Globalization, and Multi-Directional Migration. Number 2 on my list is episode 110, and the title of this episode is Lessons Learned Visiting 57 Immigrant Churches with John Yoder. Now, as we think about immigration, in this episode, you'll learn why the immigrant church and the American church actually struggle to work together. Now, you would think the American church would be very welcoming, but surprisingly, there's a struggle going on. John is the founder and president of Immigrant Ministry Connections, and he has a website. You can find that in the podcast episode 110. Find the links to some of his amazing resources listed by state, listed by country, because there's resources for Canada and the U.S. and some other places. And, as you think about it, how many of us interact with refugees or immigrants in our daily lives? We meet them. What is your church doing for the refugee community or the immigrant community? And how can your church come alongside? Well, John Yoder has come up with resources for your church to reach out and have a ministry and be welcoming of the immigrant church. So I invite you to learn more from podcast episode 110, Lessons Learned Visiting 57 Immigrant Churches. Number 3 on my list is episode 54, Taking the Mystery Out of Estate Planning. And my guest that week was John Frick, my colleague here at Sat7 USA. We save money, we budget, we invest for retirement, all the while defaulting to the government for our legacy plan. What have you done to create a legacy plan that will avoid probate fees, saving more money to resources to give to your favorite nonprofit, to your local church, or to pass on to your kids? Most people haven't even done a will yet. According to the national numbers, it's up to like 60% of people don't even have a will. And then another about 30% have an outdated will that they did when their kids were real small. And so as you look over your church, the next Sunday you're there, just look over everybody attending the church. Based on these big numbers, 90% don't have an up-to-date estate plan. Well, we want to change that. There's resources on the Sat7 USA website under estate planning, and we have a partnership with Financial Planning Ministries where we can come alongside and have a conversation about biblical generosity, about stewardship, about estate planning, and the importance of having a will, but more than that, having a trust and avoiding probate fees. So I invite you to check out that episode. As I travel, it's amazing how many pastors, church leaders that I visit with aren't prepared with an up-to-date estate plan. And so we want to come alongside the local church and make sure that everyone has an up-to-date estate plan. Number 4 on my list is podcast episode 101 about pastor retirement, and the title is Pastor Retirement, Why Too Few Plan or Prepare. And my guest that week was Mark Sessman. Very interesting because we spend about 25% of our life in retirement years. However, most pastors, missionaries, full-time ministry people do not plan or prepare for that 25% of their lifespan. The number one reason why most church pastors don't retire is that they can't afford to because they haven't planned for it. And so it's important to have, for example, a defined contribution plan 403B9 for pastors. It's vital. And so I encourage you to listen to this podcast number 101, Pastor Retirement, Why Too Few Plan or Prepare. And maybe that's you. Maybe you're sitting in the pew and you wonder if your pastor's prepared with an estate plan and have thought about it. Forward this podcast episode to them so that it can be up to date and prepared. Number 5 on my list is episode 113. This one was really interesting because the title is Revolutionizing Church Mission Displays, Creating an Interactive Experience. Now, all of you have probably seen a missionary display in the back of the church, maybe down a hallway in the basement of the church. You've got missionary pictures. You've got ministries the church supports. You've got a piece of yarn that comes from the map up to the prayer card. Well, Paul Douglas, my guest, is sharing how he's taken a 90-some-inch screen, made it touchscreen, and made it interactive, and it is just amazing how interactive it is. Real-time conversations, updated videos, amazing how he's revolutionizing church mission displays. So I invite you to go to episode 113, Revolutionizing Church Mission Displays. Every church needs one of these monitors. Now, if your church has monitors, maybe you just need the software. You don't have to buy the whole package. Paul will give you the software so you can run it through your own monitors there at the church. But you do need an up-to-date way to recognize the work that your global workers are doing and bring it back. And Paul's thought through the security, and it's all protected under the IP address of your church. And so just amazing solution to this whole thing about writing prayer letters and how do we communicate with our global staff out of a church. Paul is revolutionizing that. So episode 113. Number 6 on my list is number 144, Innovation to Reduce Your Nonprofit's Loan Payment. This was really interesting. I'm not a financial guy, but this was interesting because I learned through what Todd Tarbor doing that he can help reduce your nonprofit's loan payment up to 60%. Now, you think of your loan for your building. They help a lot of Christian schools that are buying property. They have big loan payments. The interest is high. And he has a way that he can help reduce that 60%. Amazing, fascinating, all to help the local nonprofit, the local church, the Christian school. And you'll want to listen to this. His company is Semble, S-E-M-B-L-E, is a company to address loan needs for churches, nonprofits, and ministries. And typically through Semble's innovative and unique approach, they can lower a nonprofit's monthly loan payment by 40 to 60%. Check out episode 144, Innovation to Reduce Your Nonprofit's Loan Payment. It's a fascinating episode and a new and innovative approach to the heavy cost of loans that churches and nonprofits and Christian schools have to take. Number 7 on my list is number 143, and the title is Grandparents, the Most Neglected in Church. And my guest was Dr. Don Hawkins, who has a program to help bring a solution to this neglected demographic in the local church. Well, in today's world of cancel culture and sexual distortion and other cultural shifts that have penetrated our public education and our society and into our Christian homes, clearly we live in a post-Christian era. Now, Don Hawkins has come up with a way of helping grandparents disciple their grandkids. This was fascinating, an easy-to-use multimedia presentation that take you at your own pace. Grandparents can bond with their grandchildren, set a godly example, communicate biblical truth to them, and shape their worldview, and perhaps even lead them to Christ. So that's through Grand Coaching. And you'll want to check out episode 143 of the Unconventional Ministry podcast. Well, here are 7 ideas, 7 innovative approaches, solution to nonprofit ministry, to churches. And maybe your church has been struggling with one of these issues, and one of these innovative ideas will bring a solution to your challenge as well. So I thank you for listening. I encourage you to listen to these 7 episodes, leave us a comment, and for sure share it with your friends, your network, and your church, and make them aware of some innovative and creative ways to approach some of the struggles that your church and ministry is going through. So again, thank you for tuning in to the Unconventional Ministry podcast.